How's it going, guys? So, David Haye versus Tony Bellew is official. The fight's going to be taking place in the early part of next year. Um, let's be as bold and as honest with this one as possible, guys. Only one question needs to be asked about this fight. Only one, literally. And that question is this. What round will David Haye decide to dispatch of Tony Bellew? Okay, that is the only question that needs to be asked about this fight, literally. This fight is a stylistic mismatch. Okay, let's be honest. I mean, if we were to compare these two guys, to compare their attributes, I mean, it really doesn't compare, does it? I mean, when I talk about this fight being a mismatch, I'm not talking about size. I'm not talking about weight. The fact that the fight's going to take place at heavyweight, in my opinion, doesn't matter. If the fight was taking place at cruiserweight, I'd be saying the exact same thing. Stylistically, it is a mismatch. And it's when I first heard that Tony Bellew was calling out David Haye, after he defeated Alunga Makabu in the post-fight interview when he mentioned David Haye's name, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I could sense it. I could see what was going on, and I could see where Bellew was coming from. Bellew had become a world champion. He was obviously very excited. He was crowing about the fact he just won a world title after all this time, after quite a long career. And now he sees an opportunity to use that as leverage to cash out. And now that he's at cruiserweight, he can build up a fight with David Haye, talking about how David Haye was the former cruiserweight champion and how the two guys are really the same size and the same dimensions, and how he used to spar with David Haye and his trainer has worked with David Haye before and stuff like that. It was clear to me how they were going to build the fight, how Sky and Eddie Hearn and David Haye were going to really build this one to be something that it's not. They're gonna build the fight so that there's some kind of domestic rivalry between these two. Some kind of gym war, something that happened in the past. The same kind of stuff that they did years ago with David Haye and Audley Harrison. Eddie Hearn was heavily involved in that fight too. If you didn't know, Eddie Hearn actually was Audley Harrison's promoter, and they scripted that whole thing. Audley Harrison was brought in as cannon fodder for David Haye. It was like a sacrificial goat being brought to the slaughter. I mean, it was horrible. And David Haye put a bet on himself to win the fight in round 3, and he actually almost faced a criminal charge for it because it's counted as fight fixing. And yeah, he put a bet on himself to win in round 3. The first 2 rounds, he did nothing. He didn't even throw a single punch. Neither guy did. And then in the 3rd round, he just went out and closed the show because it was an absolute mismatch. Okay, Audley Harrison is a bomb. David Haye knew that. Everybody involved knew that. Eddie Hearn knew that. He was just looking to cash in on Audley Harrison because of the trash talk and whatnot. And yeah, they sold the fight perfectly on Sky. It was a very big box office event in the UK. Many people went to see it. It was a packed out event. Many people watched it on TV. It was they'd done a great job selling the fight, and I got the same feeling when I heard Tony Bellew talking about Haye in his post-fight interview for the Makabu fight. I got the exact same feeling. I knew they were going to do this, and yeah, total mismatch. It's a garbage fight, but I wouldn't mind seeing it. It'll be fun. I'll stream the fight. I won't be paying for the fight. Because I don't want to pay for a mismatch basically. David Haye. It has to be said, David Haye is one of the most intelligent businessmen in the sport of boxing. I mean, this guy has been able to make millions upon millions of money, without really taking any risks in his career. I mean, the only times where David Haye has taken a risk is where he's challenged for a world title. I mean, the guy has been very selective about his opposition. When he was at cruiserweight, he only had 2 world title fights at cruiserweight, but they were the right fights. He picked the right opponents at the very right time when the belts were being consolidated. For example, Jean-Marc Mormec had the WBA and WBC title, and everybody knew that Jean-Marc Mormec was fucking garbage. I mean, he was a very, very basic, come forward, out of shape, short. He was only about 5'10", very short, very stubby cruiserweight that just came forward and looked to walk you down. He was very, very easy. He was tailor-made for David Haye. And, the only reason that he had those belts was because the best fighters in the division, the elite fighters like Thomas Adamek and Steve Cunningham and Marco Huck and Krzysztof Wlodarczyk and guys like that, they were all fighting for the same belt. They were all competing for the IBF title. And the IBF title kept exchanging hands between those guys, and David Haye never pursued the IBF title. Instead, he went after the WBO title, which was held by Enzo Maccarinelli, and Enzo Maccarinelli had one of the worst chins in the cruiserweight division, and David Haye knew that. And of course, John McMormack, and he went over to France for that fight. And John McMormack, again, he was tailor-made for David Haye. So, David Haye has been very, very sneaky and very tactful in how he's planned out his career, and he's been very successful with it. I mean, look, I'm giving the dude props. Okay, he's an intelligent guy, an intelligent businessman. He really is probably one of the most intelligent businessmen in boxing. I mean, it's just very, very good at matchmaking and getting the best fights for himself. The highest reward for the lowest risk, put it that way. So yeah, this fight's coming up. Let's talk about why this fight's a mismatch, because I mentioned earlier in the video that it isn't about size or weight. Why this fight's a mismatch is simply a matter of styles. Both of these guys are the same size, which is why I'm not saying it's about size, because dimensionally they're both very similar, other than reach. I'm talking about height and natural weight here. They both walk around at a very similar weight. But in terms of attributes, both guys like to fight on the outside behind a jab, and both guys like to maintain distance behind their opponent. Well, David Haye is going to have a huge advantage there, because he has a vast advantage here in terms of hand speed. Okay, he's a heck of a lot quicker than Tony Bellew. Tony Bellew really isn't that fast a fighter. Okay, he's pretty slow even by cruiserweight standards. So I mean, David Haye is one of the fastest heavyweights in the game. I mean, his hand speed is tremendous. In fact, I would go as far as saying that his hand speed is probably his biggest advantage in the heavyweight division. It's just that he's so much faster than everybody he fights. So even though he's not a great technician, and it has to be said, David Haye is not a great technical boxer. It's just that raw athleticism, that hand speed, and that shocking, sudden power that he has that makes him so difficult to deal with. Now, going in against Tony Bellew, like I said, on the outside, David Haye is just so much quicker than Tony Bellew. He'll be able to get off first. He'll be able to land punches from distance. If David Haye decides to use his jab, and sometimes he doesn't use it enough in fights, but I think against Tony Bellew he will, because Tony Bellew is very easy to hit with a jab. I mean, you even saw that in his last fight against BJ Flores. In the first round, BJ Flores was able to hit him with a jab at ease, and I don't even know why he didn't use it more, but whatnot. And David Haye, yeah, from the outside, he'll get his punches off quicker. He punches a lot harder too. Now, Tony Bellew has decent power. I don't doubt that Tony Bellew does have the power to hurt David Haye if he's able to catch him early on. But I just think that the difference in hand speed will negate that. Okay, David Haye will get off quicker if he's able to land a right hand on Tony Bellew's chin, like the right hand that he caught John Ruiz with early on. You remember that shot? It was a straight right down the middle. Or like the overhand right that he caught Enzo Maccarinelli. I mean, either one of those shots would deck Tony Bellew, let's be honest. I mean, Tony Bellew does not have a great chin. He was dropped heavily against Olunga Makabu in the first round. And, Olunga Makabu is a very short, one-dimensional, and very crude and very, just such a one-dimensional fighter, and very basic and rudimentary. And, he's not a guy that has really any... he really doesn't feint before he throws punches. He telegraphs his punches. He's slow. He's sloppy. He's sluggish. He's just very predictable in the ring. And yet he was able to catch Tony Bellew from the outside and drop him. So if that guy is dropping Tony Bellew from the outside, what do you think David Haye's going to do, guys? Let's be serious, okay? David Haye's going to drop Tony Bellew the first clean punch he lands. Against Arnold Jajai, David Haye's last fight. I know that guy was a fucking scrub. David Haye has fought a lot of bums in his career, and he always manages to build these guys up in the media like they're something special, when really they're just there to lose to him. They're like a bowling pin about to be knocked down. And Tony Bellew, obviously Tony Bellew is a better fighter than Arnold Jajai, but he's smaller than Arnold Jajai. I mean, David Haye in recent years has gotten used to punching up on his opponents. When he was preparing to fight Tyson Fury, for example, David Haye was sparring with people like Deontay Wilder. He was sparring with Mariusz Wach. He was sparring with Alexander Dimitrenko. He was sparring with Richard Towers. David Haye has also sparred numerous rounds in the past with David Price. I believe he might have sparred with Hughie Fury at one point. I could be wrong there. I'm not 100% sure. I know he sparred with Tony Thompson. He definitely sparred with him. So, David Haye, guys, he has sparred with a ton of big, strong, powerful heavyweights over the years. And, he's been in training camps for heavyweights. When he fought Vladimir Klitschko, for example, he had a lot of sparring partners for that one. And obviously, he picked up a lot of experience in that fight. And Vladimir Klitschko kicked David Haye's ass. He dominated the fight, but he wasn't able to stop David Haye. So, if Vladimir Klitschko wasn't able to knock David Haye out and wasn't able to stop him, I don't see how Tony Bellew's going to be able to do it. I really don't think that this fight deserves much of a breakdown, to be honest, because let's be honest, guys, it's a mismatch, okay? If David Haye doesn't win this fight, if he doesn't destroy Tony Bellew in the first half of this fight, then I think that this fight is probably staged. Let's put it that way. It's probably staged. If he doesn't destroy Tony Bellew in 6 rounds, then there's something going on here. I mean, Adonis Stevenson at light heavyweight was able to stop Tony Bellew in 6 rounds. He had Tony Bellew down a couple of times and had him out on his feet and was outboxing Tony Bellew the whole time while coming forward. Adonis Stevenson is a very big puncher by light heavyweight standards, not by heavyweight standards. Okay, I can guarantee you David Haye hits astronomically harder than Adonis Stevenson. And David Haye is very accurate with his power shots too. So, I think that he's going to destroy Tony Bellew. As far as where does Haye go after this, we know what's going to happen. He's going to go after that WBA regular strap. Whoever holds that, whether it's Shannon Briggs, whether it's Lucas Brown, whether it's Fraser Kendall, whoever it is that holds that belt, is the fight that David Haye's going to go for. Okay, David Haye, like I said, he's a very tactful person. He's not interested in challenging himself. He's after the path of least resistance. He wants to fight for that world title, that WBA regular belt that he held before, which is the only belt he's ever held at heavyweight. And that's what David Haye's after. He's after that same belt as before. He wants the easiest path to it that he can find. And Tony Bellew, this is just a showcase fight. Okay, this is a payday. This is going to be a big pay-per-view on Sky. I believe it's on pay-per-view anyway. I would have thought so, because you know what they're going to do for this fight. They're going to do the gloves are off. They're going to do kind of like the stuff that they did with Groves and DeGale, and cleverly Bellew too, where it was a lot of fake drama where they'll pretend that Bellew tries to hit David Haye or something, or tries to spit in his face, or tries to slap him, or tries to push him, and the guys will refuse to shake each other's hands and shit like that. It'll be just a big reality TV drama show, and it won't be genuine. Okay, these guys really don't have a problem with each other. Okay, it's just a business thing. Okay, David Haye and Tony Bellew don't really have any history at all, other than the fact that they used to spar together. So other than that, there's never really been any beef between these two. There's never been any reason for there to be any beef between these two. I believe that David Haye is taking this opportunity to get himself a showcase fight before he goes for the WBA title, whoever that's against. And Tony Bellew, he's cashing out, because Tony Bellew, he understands that in that cruiserweight division, there are a lot of fighters that will kick his ass. I mean, he doesn't want to fight the winner of Lebedev-Gassiev. He doesn't want to fight Drost. He doesn't want to fight Breedis either, even though I think he beats Breedis personally, but it's a difficult fight. Breedis certainly would have a puncher's chance. He doesn't want to fight Usyk, who he has no chance of beating. He doesn't want to fight Glavatsky. Doesn't want to fight Cunningham. He doesn't want to fight any of those guys. He really doesn't, because he understands that at cruiserweight, a lot of his shortcomings would be exposed against those guys, because against the guys he's fought so far at cruiserweight, like Olunga Makabu and BJ Flores, those guys, and Cleverly too in the rematch, none of those guys were as dangerous or as powerful as the other title holders at cruiserweight. So I think Tony Bellew understands that he can make more money in the short run by fighting David Haye now and just cashing out, then maybe defending his title one more time if he moves back down, then he'll retire. So yeah, I think Tony Bellew has found himself an early retirement gift. He's going to get a present, which is that payday against David Haye. And yeah, that's going to be it. David Haye's going to toy with him for a few rounds. Probably they'll make it interesting. He'll probably allow Bellew to land a jab, like he did against Harrison. You remember in the second round against Audley Harrison, because neither guy threw a punch, but then David Haye allowed Audley Harrison to land a jab on his face just to make it look like the fight was real, because the referee actually stopped the action and told the guys, he's like, look, fucking do something. So David Haye was just like, here you go, just jab me in the face so that we can make this shit look like it's real. And then in the next round he just went and knocked him out. So yeah, that's how David Haye works. Okay, David Haye's a businessman, kind of a con man in a way. He's very intelligent that way, but very devious. And yeah, that's why I've never liked David Haye, but I'm not knocking him for doing it. Okay, other fighters do it too. Just no one does it as effectively and as successfully as David Haye does. So yeah, David Haye's going to destroy Tony Bellew inside the first half of the fight. If he doesn't, then I'll be surprised. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.